All right, today we're going to build something super useful, a clear, structured roadmap for your entire software engineering career. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to figure out what's next, this guide is for you. Let's jump right in.
You've probably wondered, right? What does the journey from a junior coder to a senior tech lead actually involve? Forget all the vague advice out there. We're going to map it out, phase by phase, and show you the exact skills you need to be focusing on at every single step. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute essentials in phase 1, the foundation. Then we'll level up to core engineering. After that, we get to the fun part, specialization in scale. Then it's on to leadership and expertise, and we'll wrap it all up with what is maybe the most important part, the lifelong journey. Let's kick things off with phase 1.
All right, phase 1, the foundation. This is basically your first year in the field. Seriously, think of this as building your launch pad. If you get these fundamentals right, everything that comes later is going to be so much easier. So what goes into this launchpad? Well, there are 5 key pillars. First, don't just dabble. Truly master one programming language. Go deep. Second, you have to know your computer science fundamentals, especially data structures and algorithms. Third, make Git your best friend. Get comfortable committing, pushing, and pulling code without even thinking about it. Fourth, know your way around the command line. And finally, you gotta understand the basics of how the internet actually works. Things like HTTP, DNS, and IP addresses.
Now, let's pause on a concept that sounds way scarier than it is, Big O notation. All this is the language we use to talk about how efficient our code is. You know, as you throw more and more data at your program, does it slow down a little or does it grind to a halt? Big O gives you that answer. It's an absolutely crucial skill for writing professional-grade code.
Okay, with that foundation in place, we're moving on to phase 2, core engineering. This is for years 1 through 3, and it's where you make that critical leap from just being someone who writes code to being an engineer who builds reliable applications. It's a big mindset shift. So in this phase, you're really expanding your toolkit. You're moving on to more advanced algorithms, you're learning the core principles of good software design, and you're learning how to write tests that actually work. You'll also be diving into databases, using tools like Docker, and really getting a handle on key operating system concepts. And this is a perfect example of one of those key concepts, concurrency versus parallelism. They sound similar, but they are not the same thing. Concurrency is like one chef juggling multiple dishes at once. They're all making progress, but he's only working on one at any given instant. Parallelism, that's like having a whole team of chefs, each working on their own dish at the exact same time. Understanding that difference is a game changer for performance. Another huge choice you'll be making all the time is your database. Should you use a relational one like SQL or a NoSQL database? Well, relational databases are amazing for structured data where you absolutely cannot lose a single transaction. Think banking. NoSQL, on the other hand, is your go-to when you need flexibility and massive scale. Perfect for something like a social media feed. Okay, now things get really interesting. Welcome to phase 3, specialization and scale, which covers about years 3 to 6. This is the choose your own adventure part of your career, where you start to find your niche and learn how to build systems that can handle millions of users. And this is where you'll see career paths really start to fork. You might decide to focus on backend in the cloud to build the engine that powers everything. Or maybe you'll go into frontend to craft amazing user experiences. You could also dive into the world of data and machine learning, or focus on building from mobile devices. This is where you really start to develop deep expertise. So if you go down the backend path, you're essentially building the grains of the operation. That means working with things like microservices, designing APIs, and using incredibly powerful tools. You'll be using systems like Kafka to handle giant streams of data, and Kubernetes to manage it all at scale. But what if you choose frontend? Well, you're the one crafting everything the user sees, touches, and interacts with. You're going to master frameworks like React, become obsessed with performance, and, super importantly, make sure that what you build is accessible to absolutely everyone. The data and ML path is all about harnessing information on an insane scale. You'll be building these massive data pipelines to process terabytes of data, using tools like Spark, and getting into the really fascinating world of putting machine learning models into production. And of course, there's the mobile track. Here, you're building the apps that literally live in our pockets. This means mastering native languages like Swift for iPhones or Kotlin for Android, and focusing intensely on performance and user experience on these smaller, powerful devices.
And that brings us to phase 4, leadership and expertise. This is usually from year 6 and onwards. The focus here shifts dramatically. You're moving from building systems yourself to building and leading the teams that create those systems. Your impact becomes a multiplier for everyone around you. So what does that change actually look like in practice? Well, it's way less about how many lines of code you write. You're now the one defining the technical strategy for your whole team. You're spending a ton of time mentoring other engineers, and you're mastering the art of taking a big business goal and turning it into a concrete technical plan. And this quote right here just hits the nail on the head. The most critical skill is leading design reviews. See, it's not just about your own great ideas anymore. It's about your ability to elevate the work of your entire team through thoughtful feedback, collaboration, and guidance.
So you've made it. You're a senior engineer, a tech lead. Is that it? Game over? No way. Not even close. Welcome to the final and most important phase of all, the lifelong journey. Because in this field, the learning never, ever stops.
So how do you actually do that? How do you stay on top of your game? It's all about building habits. Read other people's code, in pull requests, in open source projects, read design docs from the big tech companies, and then take what you've learned and apply it by always building something on the side. And just as important, constantly work on your soft skills. Communication is just as critical as code. And that brings us to the end of our roadmap. We've gone all the way from your very first line of code to leading a team. So I want you to take a look at this map, find where you are right now, and really ask yourself, what's the next step on your roadmap?